purpose of this video is to go over the last two problems on the Clever ungraded formative from Friday the 17th. So all the problems before this are on video number 1. This is video number 2. Problem number 9 is about hikers leaving the origin. They're leaving the same camp, heading in opposite directions, and it tells you how far they go. And it's asking you to draw the situation in a coordinate plane. So the first group travels 4 miles north and 3 miles east. So 4 miles north, 3 miles east, that puts them right at this point. The second group travels 2 miles south and 5 miles west, and that puts them at that point. So these are my two groups right now. The camp becomes irrelevant because we're looking at the distance between those two groups. So I want to use those two lines, drop a straight line, and have a straight line here so that I form a right triangle. And then once I do that, I can use the Pythagorean theorem or the distance formula. They're really the same thing, organized in different ways to find this distance. So if I'm looking at it from the Pythagorean theorem standpoint, I've got this side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this side is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I've got 8 squared plus 6 squared equals c squared. 64 plus 36 equals c squared, so c equals 10. So the distance between the two groups is 10. I have to double check my answer. That's not what I remembered it being. So the difference is 10 miles. So I've just done it just thinking about it from the Pythagorean theorem standpoint. I'm going to erase that now and show you that it's really the same thing. If I use the distance formula. So the distance formula is just a different organization of the Pythagorean theorem, and it's not d squared, it's d, and here's the squared part. So I've taken the square root of d, and I'm going to have to take the square root of this side. It's the difference in my x's, which is going to be this distance squared, plus the distance in my y's squared. So I already said that the distance in my x's is 8, and it's from -5 to +3. So it doesn't matter what order I do that in. I'm going to get -8 and then I square it. So -8 squared is 64. So this is e squared. And then I'm going from -2 to +4. So again, doesn't matter what order I put these in. I'm finding the distance between them. So that's going to be 6 squared. So again, I put this all under square root symbol. And I should have just written this as 36. So I've got d equals the square root of 100, and the distance is 10 miles. This last problem is similar, but it is there's a lot of parts to this. So it's telling me the route that I'm going, and then it's asking me questions about the shortest distance, how far I rode. So I know based on what it's asking me about that I need to know the distance of each of these, from each of these points to each of these points. So I'm going to use the distance formula and find each of those measurements. So I'm going to use this one in black. So the distance there is the square root of, I'm going from 5 to 85, so I'm looking at these 2 points, so that's going to be 80 squared, and then I'm going from 50 to 30 plus 20 squared. Again, it doesn't matter, distance is always the absolute value, so it doesn't matter if I do 50 minus 30 or 30 minus 50, I'm still going to end up with a positive number once I square it. So keep in mind, this is not 100 squared. So I have to follow the order of operations, which tells me to do the exponents first. So I can't add the bases and then square them. So 80 squared is going to be 6,400. 20 squared is going to be 400. So my distance is going to be the square root of 6,800, which is 82.4. And it tells me that each unit of the grid represents 10 yards, so it's really going to be 824 yards. The next one, I'm going to change colors and do, well, maybe I'm not going to change colors. And do this one. That's way too fat. I'm going to go back to the black pen that's not so fat. That next distance is going to be 85 minus 75, which is 10 squared, 30 minus negative 10, which is 40 squared. So I have 100 plus 1,600, so I've got the square root of 1,700, which is 41.23, which is times 10 yards, so I've got 412 yards. And then I'm going to do that last distance, which is the square root. So this one was 824, this one was 412, and this last distance right here is going to be from 5 to 75, which is 70 squared, 50 to negative 10, which is 60 squared. So again, I have to square them first, so I've got the square root of 4,900 plus 3,600, so 49 plus 36 is 8,500, so the square root of 8,500 is 92.19, or 92.2, which is 922 yards. So now that I know the distances of all of those segments, I can start evaluating these statements. The first one is I make a 90-degree turn. So if I make a 90-degree turn, then I know it's a right triangle, and I know that my two shorter sides, 824 plus 412, 824 squared plus 412 squared should equal 922 squared. So I'm just going to use my calculator to check that. So 824 squared is 67,8976. And then 412 squared is 169,744. So that is, adding those together is 848,720. And I'm going to find the square root of that. And it equals 921 point something. So it's close enough to this with the rounding that I'm doing that I would say, yes, that's a 90-degree turn. So that's true. I ride my bike over 2 miles in total. So I know it in yards. I'm going to add up the 824 yards plus the 412 yards plus the 922 yards, and that equals 2,158 yards. But I want to know if that's 2 miles. So I know that 5,280 feet equal 1 mile. And I know that there's 3 feet in a yard, so 5,280 divided by 3 is 1,760 yards equals 1 mile. So I want to know if I rode my bike over 2 miles, so times 2 would be 3,520 yards. And I only rode 2,158, so that's not true. The shortest distance from your house to the store, so my house to the store would be 922. The other direction would be 824 plus 412, which would be 1,200 something, so this is true. And the distance labeled D3 is the longest individual distance. That's this one, and so that's also true. So 3 of those statements are true, and 1 of them is false.